sometimes people demonize or pathologize emotions, but emotions are a part of our humanity. And so a part of us understanding ourselves is recognizing what we feel and how we feel and honoring our humanity to have the full range of emotions. Sometimes because of family or culture or religion, there can be what we would call like this toxic positivity where you can only express like gratitude or joy, and there isn't room for our sorrow or our disappointment.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Love. We are going to be talking all things love today, and we do on every show. And today we are joined by Dr. Thema Bryant. Dr. Thema, thank you for being with us again.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to the conversation and appreciate you hosting me.
Oh, me too. You know, the last time you were on Let's Talk Love, we were talking about homecoming and how, your book Homecoming was all about coming into yourself, learning more about yourself, operating more from your heart. And now your newest book is called Matters of the Heart. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
It's called Healing Your Relationship with Yourself and Those You Love. And Dr. Thema, I'm going to just give a little introduction about your background, and then we'll dive in. So, you
good.
are a licensed psychologist. You're also an ordained minister, which I think is so fascinating and beautiful.
Thank you.
And professor of psychology at Pepperdine University in California. And in 2023, you became the president of the American Psychological Association, advocating for mental health and wellness, locally, nationally, and globally. So you've been on the road promoting your beautiful new book. Tell us what led you to write your book. And also, I was just thinking as I was getting ready this morning for this, and just wanted to know more about like your day to day. Like I know right now you're on your book tour, but what is it that you're doing day to day in your work?
Yes, absolutely. So I was so excited to, I'll say, birth Matters of the Heart, because one of the big predictors as a psychologist and a psychology researcher, one of the big predictors for our mental health is actually relationships, which, comes as no surprise. Like if you have secure, loving, nourishing relationships, whether with your family of origin or with your chosen family of friends or with a loving partner, it is what we would call a buffer when the stresses of life show up, right? When challenges happen, when I don't feel like I'm having to go through it by myself or carry it by myself, or just people who care about me and know me, that can be a buffer against despair, anxiety. When we go through major life changes of loss, having people to walk that journey with you makes such a huge difference. And on the other side, when we have been affected by unhealthy relationships, whether abusive or some would say toxic, or betrayal or abandonment or rejection, that also affects our mental health. So it's one of the questions I get asked the most, whether by therapy clients or in social media where I post about mental health. So I really wanted to address mental health and as it relates to relationships. So in terms of my day-to-day, I do have a private practice. I see therapy clients. I also spend a large part of my time as a professor at Pepperdine University, so teaching students who are training to become either therapists or psychologists. We have a master's program and a doctoral program. I'm also a mom of two, and my eldest is in her second year of college, a theater major. Yeah.
Theater major, nice.
And yes, I'm so excited for her in the fall. She's going to do the study abroad in Accra, Ghana. And so I'm like, I didn't do study abroad when I was a college student. I think it's such a great opportunity to experience life in another place. And then I have a large gap. My son is in middle school and is into coding and all things technology.
Yeah. Oh, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
I've got three kids myself, and my oldest is in university, and she's
beautiful.
And then my youngest is 3.5. So the huge gap. In my middle, she's in the well, she's 15, but what a blessing it is to have our children and watch them flourish in their So, you say your book is for whether you are trying to level up a happy relationship or rebuild trust after an unhappy one, matters of the heart will empower you to connect to yourself and to others, heal your heart, and thrive in all areas of your life. And I think that is the gift of your book, is that it covers so many different ways that, there's so much that we can learn and focus on when it comes to our hearts, right?
It is.
Yeah. So much of this, and I think it's only in the last, we've been running the podcast for, I'm going to say 3.5 years now. And I would say in the last, definitely since the pandemic and beyond, we're talking so much more about, yes, mental health, but also self-love, understanding what that really means. What does it mean to tune into your heart and follow your heart and listen to your heart?
Yes.
Right? And how is it that you would explain how mental health and our hearts are so intertwined? How do you, because you are teaching psychology as well, the university students. So I'm interested to hear how is that, what is that link and how you can translate that to our listeners?
Right. So we want to think holistically, which includes attending to our heart. Sometimes people demonize or pathologize emotions, but emotions are a part of our humanity. And so a part of us understanding ourselves is recognizing what we feel and how we feel and honoring our humanity to have the full range of emotions. Sometimes because of family or culture or religion, there can be what we would call like this toxic positivity, where you can only express like gratitude or joy, and there isn't room for our sorrow or our disappointment. Or a common saying when I was growing up that parents would say to children was, fix your face.
Fix your face.
Yeah, was this message of like, you weren't allowed to be bored. You weren't allowed to be upset. And so then we have these adults who are still policing their emotions. And the emotions don't go away. It just means we end up living these censored lives, or we're ashamed of what we feel, or we deny what we feel. And so we can't live an authentic life and a healthy life when we have to lie to ourselves and lie to others. And so tuning into your heart gives you information, right? And then you can be curious about that information of like, I don't feel good in this person's presence, right? What is that telling me? Or I feel joyful or excited as soon as I see their name on my phone. What is that telling me? So honoring that as a source of important information.
Absolutely. Something you talk about early on in the book is compassion, enhancing our self-compassion. And you say to lay the groundwork, start by asserting that your growth is built on the idea that your love for yourself is necessary. And what does that actually mean? It's like, it's only until recently, I think, and I'm 47 years old, and I'm like, I am really at a place in my life where I'm like, I actually really do love myself. And I can say that with so much truth and honesty.
I love that.
And I'm feeling aligned with my actions. And the people I'm surrounded by and the work I'm doing, who I am as a mother. There's just all the aspects, the shit's going to hit the fan. Life is life. But like, I really do like honor and love myself. And so, but what does it mean? But I can catch myself when I'm not loving myself.
Right.
And you say, as you begin to think about ways you may have been harsh with, judgmental of, or shaming of yourself. Like, it's how we talk to ourselves, right?
Right.
Dr.
So
Thema?
true. So true. It is, we can be harsh and judgmental and neglectful of ourselves, right? Because sometimes we have gotten the modeling or the message that says that a good person has no needs and takes care of everyone else. This is especially a message we can get as women.
As girls, as women.
Right. Caretakers of others while we are neglecting our own garden. And so, I love you saying that in this stage of your journey, you actually can say it honestly, that you love yourself, because I would dare to use words like it's radical, it's revolutionary. It was an act of resistance to get to self-love, because we are bombarded with so many messages that tell us that we're not enough. from advertisement. Unless you have these products, you're not enough. From film and television, where like the leading lady looks a particular way, and if that's not you, then you can't have like good love or a good life. With materialism and consumerism, that if I can't afford these things, then somehow I'm less than. And so, we can have compare despair, and it can keep us
Compare
from
despair. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, and especially with social media, we're seeing what I like to call people's curated lives, right? Like people often post their like best moments. You do have some people who post themselves crying, but usually people are posting their best moments. And so, I remember during the pandemic where moms were like posting these recipes and these arts and crafts activities with their kids. And I'm like, I'm just trying to make it through the day.
Exactly. This is like, you're just, so I remember that. Exactly. Yes, it's like I did the homeschooling thing for like, I even lasted, like, there was, you got STEAM, right? For the first 3 days, 4 days. And then I'm like, I am the worst teacher ever. Okay. I am not a teacher. So like, I was a disaster at it. But okay. Then I'm like, kids, let's take a run outside. That I can help you with. That's about it.
So true. So it's like to give ourselves grace and compassion and care. It's like, what am I doing to nourish myself? Because neglecting ourselves is unsustainable. It affects our physical and our mental health. And we're just not at our best when we're running on empty. And many of us are living on like fumes, like perpetually on the brink of burnout. And so like shifting to create a lifestyle of love. And I love when you said, not just to say I love myself, but you use the word action, right? If I didn't ask someone, do you love yourself? And I just watch their actions, do my decisions reflect an honoring of myself?
Yes. How are you, if you were to take an inventory of your life, of your day or your week, how are your actions in alignment with self-love?
That's right.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
Something I've also, and you reinforced it in the book that I have started implementing way more in my life is this idea of just taking time to be quiet, sit and do nothing, or just put on like a very gentle playlist. Yeah. Maybe it's like, I sit and just like in silence, or like have a nap, or just like, these are things that like, unless I'm completely exhausted before, I'd be like, I can no longer function. I'm at my desk, I'm falling asleep. Okay, Robin, you have to lay down for 20 minutes. But now I'm actually doing it because it's like, this is part of my self-care.
So good. There's an author, Tricia Hersey, who has a book called The Nap Manifesto, and the nap.
I like that.
Right? Yes. And it makes such a difference because our culture teaches us like, you have to hustle, you have to grind, even to the point where people are told you need to make your hobbies into a stream of income, right? If you're doing it and you're not making money off of it, then people are like, what's wrong with you? And it's like, this is just something that restores me or fulfills me or brings me joy. And so, being able to be still. But I'll also say to be able to enjoy stillness and silence is the result of healing. Because so many of us, a part of our busyness is not only trying to prove our self-worth, but trying to run from the difficult memories and feelings, right? So one of the things I had to clarify for myself is, am I busy or am I really healed, right? Because sometimes we're distracted, but we have not really tended to the healing of our hearts. And so to slow down and be still means some of the things I've been running from are going to show up. And then for me to face it so I can actually heal and love myself.
Yeah. So how would you help someone who, like there's one thing you talk about is self-compassion. There's two things, right? Gratitude and self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
Those are keys that you can turn to when you, to honor yourself and give yourself more compassion.
That's right.
You also talk about self-understanding versus self-judgment.
Right.
So what happens if you're bombarded by, you're just like, your past, things that you just totally regret, and you're just like, you've hurt others or yourself. And how do you right?
Right.
What would be some tools to work you through that so that you,
right.
so you can heal?
So what happens is we're often judging our past self based on what our present self knows, right? So instead, let me look back and see what was my life journey up until that point, right?
Oh,
What was
yeah.
I feeling? How had I been? So, for example, let's say you ended up in a terrible relationship, right? So
Yep.
you can blame yourself for like, oh my God, why did I go with this person? Why did I go along? Why did I accept this? Well, if you look far enough back in your journey, you would discover like why that was acceptable. Like whether it was familiar because you had been mistreated before, whether it was in loneliness, not having a lot of options. Sometimes when we haven't been attended to and someone comes along, then they're like, this is like better than nothing. And then you discover, unfortunately, the hard way that nothing is actually better than that. And so by looking back at my journey honestly and authentically, I can understand, right? I could understand what 20-year-old me was thinking of why this felt like a good option.
Yes. And when you say that, Dr. Thema, it makes me think if I was sitting in front of, my 18-year-old daughter
Yeah.
who's going through, self-regret or something, like let's
Yeah.
just say of something that happened to her like a year before or whatever, right? How would I approach her in that,
Yeah.
being her
Yeah.
mother that loves her unconditionally
Yeah.
and being like,
Yeah.
honey, like, let's
Right.
just, this is, the compassion that we can give to others. We have
Yeah.
to turn that on ourselves. And I think that
Right.
we are so lacking in that ability.
Yeah. I think one of the things that helps is sharing our failures. I
Sharing our
think
failures.
many
We don't do
times,
that
right?
enough, right?
Right now, we usually like share our wins. And so it's like when I tell people, oh, yeah, well, now I'm Dr. Thema and past president of APA, but I didn't get into every graduate school I applied to. Like, that's never on your resume, right? The
Right.
rejections aren't listed. The wins are what's listed. And so
Yeah.
realizing that then it gives people a false impression that they are just winners and losers versus everyone has wins and losses, right? It's like, my doctoral students at a certain point in the program, they apply for internship. And I had a student who didn't get an internship. And so it was like devastating. And then the following year, she got an internship at Yale. Now her resume will only say Yale
Yale.
internship, right? It will never list like that year where all of her classmates went ahead of her and she was left waiting for a year with nothing, right?
Yeah.
So the same for, relationships. When we share our stories, I think it helps people to give themselves grace that we all have had moments where we wish we made a different choice.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yep. I
Yep.
really like that. So you have foundational building blocks for a healthy relationship, and you break it down into 7. And I really like this, right? And I just thought we would go through them because, that's what Let's Talk Love is all about. We're all
Right.
here to gain tools and skills and just ways of looking at relationships in a different way so that we can have healthy relationships with ourselves and with each other.
Yeah.
So the first is self-love and self-care. That's the first building block to having healthy relationships, is starting with yourself.
And we hear that, but people don't always get like the connection.
No.
But when I'm in a place, if I'm in a place of self-neglect, I'm not taking good care of myself, then I will be stressed out and irritable in the relationship. I will be projecting because I'm projecting my exhaustion on another person. So when I have not nourished me, I don't show up as my most sensitive self, as my most caring self. And then it's a lot of weight putting on the other person that they are responsible for my joy, that they only are responsible for my peace. And so that's heavy to make someone in charge of some things that we need to give ourselves. Now, they can contribute to it, right? I hope they enhance your joy or enhance your peace, but for us to start with that care for ourselves. The other thing, I'm not in a good place of loving myself. It affects my decision-making in terms of who I choose and who I'm attracted to, right? So as I heal my heart, my preferences change. And what I find acceptable and unacceptable changes. So it's a good thing to nourish ourselves as we think about then creating hopefully nourishing relationships.
And if you're coming from a place of, like, I see it as like, if you're coming from a place of lack,
yeah,
you're going to be attracting, you're looking for somebody to fill that gap, that hole.
And some of the people who are attracted to you when you're in your most broken state, as you grow and heal, may resent your healing, right?
Right.
They liked being the rescuer, right? Or they liked you being a doormat or having no opinions or you being insecure. And then as you start to heal and have some thoughts of your own, they can like reject that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really like that. So I'll be number 2, which, I mean, it's like I say, it's obvious, but it's love, right? And I think love in itself, it's like this word it can be thrown around, right?
Yeah.
But really love is, like you said, it's a decision, it's a verb. Love is about the actions.
Yeah.
And there's words of affirmation, like for me, love is all those things, right? It's how you're treating somebody, how you're treating yourself with your actions, your words, how are you speaking to somebody? Like even like the bare necessity, which I think is respecting other people, like and your tone of voice. Like there's so many things that, what else would you say about the, that pillar, the foundational block of love?
It's so important because as you're naming, it's a beautiful thing to express the words, but we also look for, is the truth of it showing up in our actions and our behavior consistently, especially in moments of conflict, in moments of stress, in moments of difficulty, right? That because I love you, that will be a guardrail, right? That certain lines I won't cross because of my love for you, right? Certain behaviors or certain words that my love for you would protect me from even entertaining. And so we want to think about not just, is this a good match because I find them attractive, or it's a good match because I'll be financially stable because they have some resources, but what is my heart in the presence of the person? Because people can feel that, right?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you can feel when you're being tolerated versus when people are genuinely in a place of warm affection toward you. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And this is all of these, of course, these are relational building blocks for all relationships.
Yes. Yes.
And that's the thing about your book, Dr. Thema, is like this is for our platonic relationships, with our family, our friends, our colleagues, our children, our partners, right?
Yes.
And, and like you said, it's like there's examples in here of it's so painful, right? If you think about it, like your family of origin, let's just say, and if it's a sibling or a parent, and it's an unhealthy dynamic between you and this person that you want to have a healthy relationship with.
Right.
And let's say in their presence, you're not feeling that love. You're not receiving that love. And it's it's so difficult.
Yeah.
So what would you do in that situation? Like you say, like if it's if this is one-sided relationship, you really have to look at that and be like, is this in my best interest to continue being in this relationship? And like, you have to create boundaries possibly.
Right. So one of the keys that we talk about in the book is communication. And so, I would initially push back on the idea some people have of assuming the person knows, right? Sometimes we're like, they know or they should know. We all show up to life differently, have been exposed to different things, and it may not really be occurring to the person that like this for you is like vital, or that this act is like significant to you. I remember talking to a couple where when the husband came home at the end of the day, he was upset that his wife didn't come to greet him. Right? She's doing whatever she's doing. And so, but for him, it was like, if you cared, and we've been apart for hours, when I walked in, you would be excited to see me.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was one of those sharings that it was really not on her mind. Not because she didn't care. It's just not her norm. She never witnessed that growing up. It just
She didn't realize it was important to him.
Yeah, she didn't know that it was important to him. So there are some times where communication can help. Now, I will say for people, when you do communicate, you then can't condemn people for saying they're just doing it because I asked. Well, they are doing it because you asked.
You actually asked for that. Yes.
Right? So especially if we have been a part of co-creating relationships that are one-sided, right? So if in my friendship circle, I'm always the strong one, I look out for everyone else, I take care of everyone else, and I never express my needs, then I wouldn't recommend, well, let's just cut off all these friends. Like that sometimes if it's a pattern or a cycle, then I need to shift and give people a chance to show up for me, right? Instead of just saying everyone's selfish. Well, have you ever let them know your heart, right? Or let them know that you needed something. Or sometimes when we're struggling, we disappear. So people only see us when we're shiny and put together, right? So I would say if it's a one-sided relationship or it's just not meeting your needs, to first ensure you have communicated the needs. And when we communicate it, it's also the way I communicate it so that it's not just a criticism. So, for example, like the difference between saying to someone, you know, you never spend time with me and I'm tired of it. Okay, that's one communication versus I really love when we spend time together. I wish we could do it more.
Yes.
Right?
It's totally a completely different approach. You're saying something very similar.
Yeah.
But it's coming from a place of love and yes, and what you need, expressing your need.
Right.
Or I really miss you. And I want us to spend more time together.
Right. It lands different. It feels different.
Yeah. The other thing you talk about is having realistic expectations in your relationships.
Right.
And you give a really good example of a couple that were married for a long time, and Deborah and Jack. And Deborah is, I believe it was like a literary professor or something. Like her job was all around writing and expressing and communicating that way. And he was like this man that, they're just, he didn't like to read. He didn't like, he's just like, I'm not a words guy, right?
Yeah.
And so he wanted to have she wanted these long love letters and like beautiful cards at anniversaries. And, he would give her a card and said, love you, Jack, right? And she's just like, what the heck? But, and so knowing that about, right. So she would say to him, like, come on, why can't you just write me a big, long, beautiful letter? And he's like, it's not me, babe. Like, that's not me. Yes. But I'm sure he's showing her love in other ways. Right. And so it's really just, it does come down to communication. Right. But also it's like, you're not there to change someone. Yes. And that's the other thing is that we have to see people for who they are because we want to be seen for who we are. Yes.
So true. And, that was one of the points I made with the couple is like, he didn't just start not being into like wordy cards, right? From the beginning of you all getting to know each other, he's consistently himself. So, you had this fantasy that he was going to become a poet.
Yeah.
And deciding and really seeing people and in a place of acceptance. So not like if they change these 5 things, then I will love them. It's like in their current form, is this who you desire? Right. And to answer that honestly.
Yes. The story, you tell a lot of great stories in your book. And one of the stories I appreciated was just around, there might be other people in your life that are not accepting of the relationship that you have, right?
Right.
You talk about that there's that one couple that have been together 50 years. Yeah. Neither one of their families were accepting because of their religious differences or their cultural differences. And they were like, well, and so they made it work between their families. Yeah. Like he would go visit sometimes if she didn't want to go because she wasn't, and vice versa. Yeah. But in the end, it's just like we choose each other. Yes. And this is, we want this to work no matter our differences.
That's
so
right.
Beyond all the other influences they had around them, they really made it work like 5 decades in, right?
Yes. And it's such an important example because, some people feel like forced to choose of to be with them, then I'd have to give up my family, or to love my family, I have to give up the person. And so being assertive and clear in your priorities and in your honoring, and also not forcing people to be subjected to places that make them feel unwanted.
Right.
Yeah.
So the fifth pillar is grace and forgiveness. And I think we did talk about like this is really accepting people for who they are, but also the fact that we're going to continually, always in our lifetime, make mistakes.
Yes.
And hurt each other, like, and not on, like,
Yeah.
But we have to be able to give each other like forgiveness, just like we would do with I think about that with ourselves, like forgive yourself for the mistakes you've made. Like I keep thinking about my children, right? Because like they're little, they're growing, but we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes, right?
Right. It's so true to be understanding of the fact that usually your friend or your partner has been this other way for the majority of their lives, right? So now what they're trying to do, like to develop a new habit or to shift, it takes effort over time. It can feel awkward at times. So like do I see signs of growth? Do I see consistency with that, even if it's not perfection, but it's improving and increasing? Because, one of the challenges is when we don't acknowledge people's efforts, then they can give up because they feel like it's like I can't win. So no, it's to acknowledge the growth while still holding the standard of saying like, I still don't like, the way you spoke to me or that or that you forgot this thing that's important to me. But I do see that you're working on it and I need us to keep working on it. Yeah.
So what would you say around like being able to be flexible? Because flexibility is one of the building blocks.
Yes, is that if we're going to have relationship over time, people are going to change, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's not a matter of like that people are tricking us or deceiving us. It's just if you're together for years, what people's interests are can change. The way they approach life can change. Their perspective can shift. And so to not be so locked in to say, like, I'm going to hold us hostage to like who we were however many years ago, right? Yes. It may look different.
You are, I want to change and grow in this life.
Yeah.
That's something that I strive for. I don't want to be the same Robin I was 5 years ago, 10 years. Like, okay, the core of me, people know, but it's, I want to be growing and changing, hopefully for the better, right?
Right. Yeah. We hope it's in the better. We hope it's in the similar direction, but, we have to allow for that and to see that. And I have this saying I wrote of, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be stressed out.
I like that.
Surprises are going to happen. So like, okay, like, your partner got a job offer in another city or they got laid off, right? Okay. So like, what's our new normal?
So now what?
Yeah.
So I love the seventh. I think it's so important. Your building block of co-creating joy. You have to have joy. I mean, what's life without joy?
That's right. Because then we just start to look at each other as duty or obligation or like a distant roommate. And so, we have to be intentional about planning things that we're going to enjoy together.
Yes. Like just special time. And it doesn't have to be something extravagant. It's like, and something novel, like new things, new experiences.
That's right. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It's just like, what will we enjoy that you don't always do, but we want to make priority to do it.
Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah.
So, the one thing I also really like, Dr. Thema, around when the keys to a healthy romantic relationship is highlighting the importance of looking for the green flags.
Yes.
We don't actually talk about this a lot, especially the dating relationship talks. Yeah. It's like, what are the red flags? Where are the red flags? The yellow flags. Okay. But you're like, what if you were to focus? I mean, I just think, okay, our hearts are always giving us information. Our bodies are, okay, I want to listen when I'm in the presence of somebody that I don't know, you're dating. But you also, if you go in with this attitude of like looking for the green flags, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's a game changer because I think especially when people have been disappointed in love, we become so afraid of it happening again that we enter into social situations or even on these dating apps with all this armor and like looking for the signs that this person's going to be terrible. Right. So I don't want to close my eyes to like if there are issues. Sure, I want to see them. But when my like frame or my stance is like looking for the bad, then I will assume all kinds of things are bad and possible bad signs where I don't even give it a chance to actually have a real conversation or to meet up with the person or to see, even if there are places where we have differences, could we still align that this person doesn't have to be my clone for us to enjoy each other, right? And so looking for how does my heart feel in this person's presence? How do they speak to me? Are they they're consistent in following up? They say, I want to take you out this weekend. Does that happen? Always getting stood up. Noting how they treat other people. So not just you, they may be trying to impress you, but I see like their kindness both around the people they talk about, but also my observed interactions with them. Also thinking about paying attention to how people talk about past relationships, right? Is there any self-awareness or it's always somebody else's fault? Able to recognize their own growth of, in that relationship, I was immature or, I communicated this way, which didn't really help. And so now I'm really thoughtful about communicating in a different way. So that shows self-awareness and self-growth.
Having self-awareness and accountability.
Yes. Yeah.
Is so
huge.
Important.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The blame game is not it's just very unhealthy.
Yes.
Yeah. You also talk about how safety is so key. And I think that, there's a lot to say around safety. It's not, obviously, if you're in an abusive relationship, there's no room for, it's just like, whatever you can do, you need to get out of that.
Yes.
Like, it's just, there's no other, everything you can do to get out of an abusive relationship. But how else, if you were to, if you're talking to somebody and you're seeing like, how else can unsafety in a relationship show itself?
Yes. So, a way we often don't think about or recognize is more like emotional abuse. So we think about like, is my heart safe with this person? So for example, people who, when you all are in a group, like to make you the butt of the joke, right? So they enjoy humiliating you, right? And, and it's supposed to all be a joke and everyone's laughing. But like, how do you feel? Are you smiling politely because you're embarrassed? Or, do you feel honored by this person, right? It can also be not feeling emotionally safe if they give you signs that their faithfulness is not sturdy, right? So serial infidelity, flirting with people in and outside of your presence, that doesn't feel safe. I've had clients who have body image issues, and then the person they're dating knows this and makes comments about their body. So now you're trying to make love to someone that you're hiding from.
Right.
So your heart doesn't feel safe there.
And your body sure doesn't either.
That's right.
Your whole self.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So feeling nourished, honored, respected, cared for, that they consider you in their actions and in their words, then that feels safe. Another one is in terms of emotional safety that I see a lot of is, can you express your concerns without them turning in rage? Or a big one tactic is the silent treatment. Right? So if you share your feelings, are you punished for that? Then that's not emotionally safe. Manipulation is I'm trying to, or even they'll make a statement of like, oh, I hate women who complain. And the reason I like you is you don't nag me or complain, right? Which is the hook to say like, keep your mouth shut and, we won't have a problem. So now if I actually have a concern, now feeling like it will be a bad thing for me to express myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
You give an example in the book that I so resonate with. I've been in relationships where I lost my voice, and it's like, how is that even possible? Like, how did Robin lose her voice? Because I consider myself to be such a strong, a good communicator. But if you're with somebody that every time you approach them with something that's very important, you just get shut down, like an absolute, like literal wall goes up.
Yes.
Like this discussion is a no-go.
Yes.
And it keeps happening over and over and over again. If you just keep hitting that wall,
Right.
Well, you're conditioned. You become
Yes.
conditioned
Right.
to just shut your mouth around it.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and that's just, it happens over time. It happens, like, that's the consistent behavior. So
Right.
I'm not even going to approach it anymore.
Yes.
And that's one topic. Okay. There's another topic that's off limits. There's another topic that's off limits. So you think about it, it's like your voice literally gets, and so then it turns into an act of, like, what I was learning from you is like self-betrayal, almost like self-abandonment,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
abandoning my own voice and my own
Right.
opinions
Right.
to save
It's
this
true.
relationship or to
Yeah.
keep the peace or something.
That's right. And I'm so glad you gave that example, because sometimes we can think that would only happen if someone was quiet or insecure. But no, as you said, it can be subtle and gradual over time, like this silencing, which is, psychologically, you think about, the category. One, there's a category of people who are drawn to people who are very much in a shell and a kind of, we would say, like, easier to control. But then there are also people who are drawn to you as this, like, vivacious person, but then wanting to control, like, that light, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're right, Dr. Thema. I've never heard it said like that.
Yes.
But there was stuff that there was so many ways that, like, and I could see it in my last two relationships.
Yes.
And it's like, how did that happen? Well,
Yeah.
over time, you can reflect and be like, this is how it happened. And it wasn't just this way, it was in this way and this way and this way.
Yes.
And I really, it's just, I look back and I'm like, gosh darn it. But I'm not in it anymore.
Yes.
But it's
Good for
being,
you.
but it does really makes you think, like,
Yeah.
being so much more, and how important it is to be more self-aware,
Right.
and self-understanding.
Yes. Yes. Because this is, again, like, do their words line up with their actions, right? Because they're saying they adore me, they're so into me, but yet they want to silence me. So, that doesn't match.
So I also wanted to talk about, I love this. You talk about gentleness.
Yeah.
And how important gentleness is in your relationships.
Yes.
And releasing the harsh warrior. Because I'm surrounded by, I was surrounded by strong women, and I've got, like, strong, in my family, in my friends, and I could see myself as my younger self, like when I first started, and it's just like you're asserting we're taught to be, like, independent and assert yourself, and be just as educated as men and all this, right? So it just makes me think of that.
Yes.
And I think men too are still raised to be strong, and all this. So it's like this warrior energy and dynamic is still very strong in our culture.
Yes.
And we're not talking a lot about being gentle.
Right. No.
We're not taught gentleness.
We like often are told to equate gentleness with weakness or with being a victim.
Yes, but it's
right.
not.
So we bring that warrior energy to our relationships, right? Being combative or on edge, or like looking for the offense, or even approaching, let's say there's a disagreement, and approaching it like there's winners and losers, right? Like, I'm
so common,
right? I'm gonna win.
Yes.
And so it, what I like to do, like to say to people is, I appreciate the experiences in life that caused you to become a warrior, and that those circumstances would have consumed you, like if you didn't develop that fight that you have. So, and there will be times in life
where you're going to have to pull out your warrior.
Right?
Oh,
there are times where things will happen, but the issue is we don't want to live in that mode where we're perpetually, that's exhausting. And you also end up missing out on a lot of good experiences if I'm fighting everybody all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So
So how are you showing up?
Yeah.
In gentleness.
Right.
Like, how are you teaching that?
Yes. Yeah. So a part of it, I like to use the phrase sacred pause, right? Because if I'm used to being a warrior and something happens I don't like, if I respond quickly, I'm going to be in fight mode. Yeah. Right? Because that's just like what I'm used to. So, when somebody says something or something happens, to give myself permission to pause before I respond, to pause, to breathe, to digest, And I would even say to help people with measuring the level of offense. You know, some people can't do this. When I say like on a scale 1 to 10, some people make everything a 10. Not everything's a 10, right? So now you're like coming out guns blazing and they just looked at you wrong.
Right. Measuring the level of offense. I like that.
So I'm going to let my response match the level of offense. And like, not everything needs
Not everything even needs a response.
No, exactly. I would say some things are not drama worthy, right? It sounds like a lot of dramas take a lot of energy. And, a great example of that is on social media. You know, people will write ridiculous things. So I don't want to let them ruin my day. And I don't want to get into a back and forth, right? Yeah.
I think that comes with, I feel more gentleness and more ease in my life. And sometimes, exactly, I just won't even say anything.
Yeah.
I'll just stay silent. What the heck's the point? It's all good.
Yeah.
Like less things bother me.
Right. Well, it's connected to you talking about loving yourself, right? Sometimes we're responding intensely because a part of us wonders if it's true, right? You say something insulting and a part of me feels like you might be right. So I got to convince you and the world and myself that it's not true. But when I'm clear about me and somebody says something ridiculous, it may be disappointing. It might hurt a bit, but like at my core, I know it's not true. Yeah.
You know, the more you practice staying in your lane as well, it's like that's their stuff. It's not mine.
Yes. Yeah.
And just that my street right now is feeling pretty clean.
Yeah.
That's that stuff they're trying to throw at me. It's not mine.
Right.
Yeah.
And I heard this quote, I can't credit it, I'm not sure what it's from, but it says something like, sometimes the closest someone will come to greatness is taking a bite out of you. And so it's then, right? Like they're nagging at you. They're trying to get your attention. They're trying to get a reaction out of you because they don't have the psychology to be able to say, I admire you. Right? So then it comes out as some like dig or like them trying to get you to engage with them.
You say to live in gentleness compared to harshness, you must surround yourself with the right people.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you say to invite in gentleness, list the people with whom you feel safe, respected, comfortable, and at ease. And to the extent possible, maximize your time with them.
Yeah.
And, this I think is just such an excellent reflection, because if you're thinking about this, like if you think about like the top like 7, 8, 9, 10, or even like 2, 3, 4, or 5 people you are spending your most time with in your day, in your week, in your month, in your year.
Yeah.
Are those people giving you all those things, right? Are you feeling safe? Are you feeling at ease? Are you in their presence? What is your heart telling you in their presence? And this is what you're teaching is like the reflecting on your heart. How, because your heart's going to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I've heard it said this way, when we feel safer, we become softer, right? So if I'm in your presence and I don't need to defend, right? That I don't have to be warrior, then I can have more ease and I can relax. So that's healing. That's why we talk about some of the healing we do is in relationship.
Yeah.
And I discover like that not everyone is out to get me. That's healing.
And so there's so many gems in your book, Dr. Thema. And I think it's like, you do address like, there's so many ways that you can, let's say you do discover, okay, I've got 3 people in my circle where I do not feel ease. I do not feel safe. I do not. And so there's a lot in here around helping heal that, right? So I really hope that people read your book because it's just full of guidance and wisdom and ways that we can actually like really create more healthier dynamics and relationships in our lives. So thank you so much.
I so enjoyed talking with you and definitely hope that people will go out, read the book. And I do like to say there's also an audio version. So if
the audio is so good. I always do the audio. I'm so glad you read because I loved hearing your voice. Yeah. And I like having the book to underline and dog ear and both. I think it's important to have both. Yeah, that's my thing. But I'm going to close with a blessing based on all the learnings from your book this week. May we choose to take our healing into our own hands by no longer being willing to pay the price of self-neglect, self-abandonment, powerlessness, and waiting for circumstances and others to change. May we know that love does not require convincing. Genuine love is available, and to get it, we have to let false love go. Anyone who doesn't want to be with the truth of us is not intended to be in our lives. And may we welcome sacred love into our lives and sacred pauses.
Yes.
May we heal our hearts, open our hearts, and expand our hearts in beautiful ways. And this book really helps us do that. So thank you, Dr. Thema Bryant.
Thank you so much. I have so enjoyed the conversation.
Me too.
Thank you so much for being here with us. Let's Talk Love is brought to you by Real Love Ready and hosted by Robin Ducharme. If you'd like to keep learning with us, visit realloveready.com for more resources and tools to boost your relational skills and get better at love. If this podcast has resonated with you, it would mean the world to us if you could take just 30 seconds to do these 3 things. Follow or subscribe. Never miss an episode by hitting the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite app. This makes sure new episodes show up automatically for you, and it helps us get more visibility so more people can find our show. Leave a rating and review. Your feedback means everything to us. By leaving a 5-star rating and a thoughtful review, you're not only showing your support, but also helping others discover the podcast. Share an episode that really spoke to you with someone in your life, whether it's a friend, partner, or family member. Your recommendation could just be what they need to hear. We at Real Love Ready acknowledge and express gratitude for the Coast Salish people, the stewards of the land on which we work and play, and encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge and express gratitude for those that have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you live on as well. Many blessings and much love.